Homosexuality is an occurrence that is documented in humans and other living organisms ever since ancient civilization. It is believed that 5% of the human population is homosexual. It is a highly controversial sexual phenomenon that evokes a range of responses from the human population. Religious groups have strict moral opposition to the practice of homosexuality, some going as far as introducing legal punishment as extreme as death. Homosexuality is considered taboo for its vast degree of response from people and because it was poorly understood on a scientific level. Biologically, it is unusual that this sexual phenomenon has been sustained in our population for so long. Recent studies have uncovered some of the myths that surround homosexuality, offering knowledge on its manifestation and also offering hope to those that are outcasted by their social groups. I would like to introduce my first hypothesis to explain the significance of homosexuality and its importance to humans on an evolutionary scale. It states that human homosexuality indirectly abides by the rules of Darwin's theories of sexual selection by benefiting population groups instead of individuals. Studies by R.C. Kirkpatrick and the Royal Society propose several different possibilities for why homosexuality does not disprove Darwinian theory. Kirkpatrick offers 3 explanations for homosexuality's beneficial place in human fitness. The first, called kin selection, states that homosexuals altruistically forego reproduction to assist the offspring of relatives. His second, called balanced polymorphism, says that homosexual behavior co-occurs with the second trait under positive selection. His third, that he does not title, says that non-contraceptive benefits between homosexual partners can be used for survival strategies like same-sex alliances to create cooperative resource competition. The Royal Society proposes a fourth explanation, that the presence of homosexuals in the mating environment enables heterosexuals to acquire a greater amount of partners of the opposite sex. All of these hypotheses were tested using collected data from ethnographic literature, surveys, and previous research. The conclusions to be pulled from this data are fairly odd in that despite the in-depth analysis, some of these hypotheses could be neither disproven nor proven. Kirkpatrick explains this by saying that the evolution of human homosexuality is tied to the benefits of same-sex affiliation. Natural selection favors same-sex affection. It must be fundamental for both sexes to desire bonds with partners for both sexes. Homosexuality is an emergent quality of individual selection for same-sex affiliation and has been part of the human experience, perhaps all primate experience, since its inception. There was one finding in all of this that is very important to be highlighted, and it's that the presence of homosexuals have relevance in the fertility of human beings. A higher frequency of homosexuals in a person's maternal line is correlative to being homosexual, as does having a larger number of older brothers, which suggests what is called a maternal immunization effect. Most significantly, maternal female relatives of homosexuals have a higher number of pregnancies than those of heterosexuals, suggesting that homosexuality favors Darwin's sexual selection theories. These findings lead me to my second hypothesis, that human homosexuality is a random occurrence with causes that can be attributed to a variety of environmental conditions. 2 major areas of research here focus on homosexuality in birth order and urban environment. The Journal of Sex Research and the Archives of Sexual Behavior have published studies that I have supplemented into this report. Again, data was collected from reports that surveyed 4,000 American households and 3 million Danish households. The conclusions to be made here are much more clear-cut than those of the previous reports in that correlation is directly drawn between birth order, location of birth, and frequency of homosexuality. More specifically, men are more likely to be homosexual when placed later in the birth order, possibly because of prenatal hormonal activity that occurs during the process of embryos developing into males. This finding reflects the maternal immunization report in that it also suggests that the X chromosome is fundamental in becoming homosexual. Also interesting is that homosexual marriages were much more prevalent in urban centers as opposed to rural areas, possibly because of demographics and religious activity that differs between these 2 centers. These same findings also noted that men and women were less likely to be in a heterosexual marriage if one parent was absent during childhood or if mother married at an older age. While the main purpose here is to explain homosexuality's development and sustainment in the human population on an evolutionary scale using scientific evidence, I ultimately hope that these findings will help homosexual people struggling with their identity to become more accepting of their sexual preference. Science has been fairly slow with homosexuality given that it is so highly opposed by oppressive spiritual groups, but I would like to think that as evidence like this continues to pile in, discrimination will be lessened and the notion of homosexuality as a choice will be an idea of the past.